Welcome to Beyond the Blockchain with Scott Tyndall, a discussion of blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, and why it matters to you.
Hey folks, welcome to Beyond the Blockchain. I'm your host, Scott Tyndall. We're here on a Wednesday night, here on 106.5 FM, like we always do. As always, if you have questions or comments, you can call in at 251-343-0106. On this show, we talk about blockchain technology. We talk about the future. We talk about the way things can be better, how we can control our data, and how we can use that to help us in the future. But a lot of what we talk about is also cryptocurrency, and I think it's important that we talk about one of the biggest stories in the history of cryptocurrency, and it's something that people want to know about. So what we have today is we have FTX, which is the second largest cryptocurrency exchange, right behind Binance. And what we have today is we may be facing liquidation and maybe even the bankruptcy of FTX. Philip, I think that's something that, you and I spent a lot of weeks together talking about this stuff, but this could be something that really rocks the industry, because a lot of what we talk about is like, how do you be safe in cryptocurrency? And previously, FTX was somewhere we thought you're pretty safe in this environment, right? So this liquidation could be something pretty substantial. The other thing I like to talk about is, we spend a lot of time on this show talking about practicality and use cases and why Web3 and blockchain and crypto is the future. So today we will talk a little bit about this FTX dilemma, but we will also talk about DIMO. DIMO is a company that is taking the data from your vehicle, applying it to Web3, and really making it something that is incredibly useful. But I think it's important. Let's not shy away from the elephant in the room. We probably have today, just for posterity's sake, we should probably talk about the fact that the FTX meltdown is going to be an industry-changing and historic moment inside crypto. And it's not good. It's very bad.
What caused it?
What caused it is a great question. We're looking at misappropriation of funds, probably. We're looking at FTX possibly lending out user funds that were supposed to be in the exchange. It's really bad. I struggle to find any way to say anything positive about this experience other than, holy cow, I hope we find a way to learn lessons from this. So, all right, if who's stepping in? Nobody's stepping in. So what we need to talk about now is we go to this article from CNBC.com. This bastion of of jurisprudence and reliable reporting. But so FTX is the second largest exchange in the world for cryptocurrency. Binance is the first largest. So what we're dealing with now inside this cryptocurrency space is we basically have like the robber barons, like we did 100 years ago, right? So we got CZ is how he goes by. He's the CEO of Binance, and we've got Sam Bankman-Fried, what they call him SBF, and he has been like the darling of cryptocurrency. He's donated money to a lot of causes. He's committed to giving his $1 billion away. And today he did give away billions of dollars, about 96% of his income, but not in the way he probably anticipated. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of headline of what's going on. So CNBC says Binance backs out of the FTX rescue, leaving the crypto exchange on the brink of collapse. And this is terrible for a lot of people. There's other articles that say there may be $8 billion worth of investor money that is being left on the hook. All right, $8 billion with a B. This is a giant number, okay? So this article says Binance is backing out of its plans to acquire FTX, the company said Wednesday, leaving Sam Bankman-Fried's crypto empire on the verge of collapse. $8 billion, by the way. The reversal comes one day after the Binance CEO, Changpeng Zhao, who we call CZ, announced that the world's largest cryptocurrency firm had reached a non-binding deal to buy FTX. Well, there is a lot more to unpack when we get out of the back of this. But what you need to know is we're looking at a global collapse of the cryptocurrency industry. And what we've got to do is figure out how to get through this one and focus on building for the next. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about how we build coming out of this disaster.
Welcome back to Beyond the Blockchain with Scott Tyndall.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Scott Tyndall, here on Beyond the Blockchain, where every Wednesday night we talk about blockchain technology, we talk about cryptocurrency, we talk about the future of Web3 and how it's going to change our lives. And a lot of times, we get stuck down in the weeds and we can talk about a lot of the sad things that are going on. We'll finish up the conversation about FTX, but here in a minute, we're going to talk to Alex from DIMO, and we're going to talk about the way that your car data is going to be used to your benefit. You're going to be in control of your data. You're going to be able to use your data, and you know what? It's going to really change the way you feel about owning a car. All right, let's wrap this FTX thing up real quick, Philip. All right, here's what we need to know. FTX, second largest exchange, at least in North America, and maybe otherwise, on the brink of collapse. Very bad. Very bad. We could go into how very bad all this is, but I don't know if that does us any good. The good thing about this show is we don't really talk about coins or coin prices or any of those things. We really talk about how to build the future of Web3 and what that means. And so I guess let's not even belabor the point about all the bad news that's going on. Let's just jump into DIMO and Web3 and the future of your car data. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay. Alex, are you with us, buddy?
I sure am. Great to be here, Scott.
Hey, Alex, man, I appreciate you being here. It's for posterity's sake, I think we have to acknowledge what a hard day this is inside of Web3 and cryptocurrency. I don't want to belittle that. There are a lot of people that are going to have really, really rough kind of resolutions from this, right? I mean, we may be looking at maybe $8 billion worth of user funds at risk, and that's something that's really tragic, and a lot of people are going to just get totally wrecked by that. But
it's really easy for an entrepreneur and folks in my seat to say, well, we're just going to keep our head down and go back to building. But I agree, it's worth thinking about people who are hurt by this and thinking about how we can all do better as we build up this industry.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, we can't pretend like there's not a lot of really hurt emotions and really a lot of hurt bank accounts as a part of this.
Yeah.
What I hope comes from this is a lot of what we're trying to do on this show is we really just focus on the building and the practical use cases and the way that Web3 and blockchain and is going to impact our lives. And so that's why I'm really happy to have you on the show tonight. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm glad that we can focus on that part of the story as well.
All right. So, Alex, we haven't had a chance to really give our users a deep dive into DIMO yet. So I'm going to give you the floor. And why don't you just take us through, your elevation of, what DIMO is and what we're trying to accomplish and why that matters.
I'd be more than happy to. And Scott, if you want to jump in and ask any questions along the way, feel free. But I'm one of the co-founders of DIMO. I focus on our growth and operations and trying to bring the message out to more people. So I'm excited to talk about what we're building. And what we are building is a connected vehicle platform that is open source and more open to developers. So what does that mean if you're a regular driver and you've got a car, maybe a couple of cars at home in the garage? Well, we have the DIMO mobile app. You can connect your car to DIMO, and we'll get into the variety of ways that can happen. What DIMO allows you to do is actually store your own vehicle data. So instead of that vehicle data going back to Toyota or Ford or Tesla or whatever kind of car you have, you're in control of that data. You store performance and health and maintenance information. You can also store documents about your car, the title, the registration, the receipts. And over time, that data becomes an asset that compounds in value. And most people are probably familiar with the concept of using some car data to get discounts or save money. People maybe have an opportunity to do this with a car insurance company, or maybe you've done it with a Carfax when you're actually going to sell your car, proving your car is in good shape. But what we're allowing is an average person to collect terabytes of data about their car and actually put that to work with automotive players. So you'll be able to show up to a used car marketplace with not just a couple of receipts about the health of your car, but literally the entire record of the health of your car, and probably get paid a whole lot more for that vehicle because of the data.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. No, I was just going to say that makes a lot of sense to me. One of the things that I just am personally fascinated in, we've talked about on the show before, is collectibles. And when you're talking about something like a sports card, right? Like the fact that you've got something that's PSA graded 10 versus PSA graded 7 makes a substantial difference, right? And essentially, you're bringing this kind of idea of authenticity and grading to the car market. Is that a fair analogy?
Yeah, I think it's a concept that has existed, on the fringes and certainly in the collectible car market, but it hasn't existed for the mass market, for every car that's just sitting in garages all across America, just with regular people. Yeah,
that's a great point. So, all right, so we're going to take DIMO. Now, to break it down for us, we're going to take DIMO. We'll add it to if I want to be able to start collecting my data and use it for the benefit of my future of the car, what do I need to do to be a part of that community?
Well, depends very much on what kind of car you have at home today. So most modern cars are actually coming out of the factory, rolling off the dealership lots with a connected vehicle platform attached to them. So certainly if you've got a Tesla at home, you can actually download the DIMO mobile app, use your Tesla credentials, and log in, and you're connected in about a minute or two. It varies with other automakers. Unsurprisingly, there's some that are building pretty crappy software, and they're behind the times a little bit. So it's not so easy depending on what car makers you have. But we do have a solution for those sorts of situations, which is we've produced a hardware device, just like the many OBD2 plug-in devices that people use for car diagnostics already and have been using for decades now. We've produced one that allows you to connect your car to the DIMO network. We're actually going to be opening up the store and selling those devices again in the next couple of weeks. You buy one of those devices, you download the app, you plug it into your car, and you're off and running.
Oh, it seems pretty easy and user-friendly. Now, if I have a fleet of vehicles, I'm interested in my fleet data. Is there the ability to do that as well?
We do support fleets. We're focusing on the smaller end of fleets today, the landscaping company, the plumbing company, really on the small business side. And you can do that right in the DIMO mobile app with a good amount of information. And we're actually working our way up to bigger and bigger fleets and building more and more features that larger fleets are going to be able to use. And so certainly any fleet can come to DIMO and start using the product as well.
Well, I think that's a great point, because I think a lot of our listeners are going to come from this perspective of maybe their individual vehicle, but we have a lot of business owners that do have small fleets. They may be a plumbing company, an electrical company, maybe they're servicing asphalt restoration or any of these other things. So for the ability to them to handle maybe their fleet of 5, 10, 15 vehicles seems like something that would be very advantageous to them, right? Especially when they go to maybe the secondary market and they want to move their vehicles and maybe buy some new ones. Am I on the right track there?
Absolutely. And there have been fleet services companies for a long time, but they've been mostly focused on the larger end of the market, the bigger customers. And the small business side of the fleet market has been a little bit underserved. And a lot of what we're building for the average driver, their personal car, really actually more than 50% of American households have more than one car at home. So a lot of people actually have a fleet, if you think about it that way. A lot of the things we're building are going to be applicable to one car or 10 or 15. And our goal is to be able to empower users, whether it's for one car or 15, store your data, and then go and use that to save time and money across the industry on maintenance, insurance, and buying and selling vehicles.
I think this insurance part is something that really we can't dive into tonight because it seems like an entire show. But it seems to me like this insurance play is something that could really be a giant money saver, not just for individual users, but insurance companies could use this to really dial down rates and give people appropriate rates for appropriate use. Are you seeing that there in your space?
It's interesting, and you're right. We could talk a long time about insurance, so I'll speak about it briefly. We've talked with some insurance companies that have these models of consuming some telematics data and adjusting your rate. And as we talked with them, there are very few of these companies that are doing this in a very sophisticated way, because the reality is when they started these programs maybe 10 or 15 years ago, cars didn't produce that much data. But today, everything in the car is connected to computers, and in fact, onboard systems like your lane keeping system and your cruise control are getting more and more advanced. And the insurance companies that are using your data and adjusting your rates are really not maximizing the value of that data. And so we think that there's going to be a huge revamp of that industry and the way that data is used that ideally should benefit both sides.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, the more I think about it, like, people tell me I'm quite the grandpa of a driver. So I would like to get the benefit of being the grandpa of a driver, Like, I want my insurance company to know that I'm pretty safe. I'm gonna move it along at about the speed that you want me to, and I'm gonna merge on in the next lane like any grandpa would. So if I can get a benefit and a discount on my insurance, that's something I'm interested in.
And it's something that applies to the used vehicle market too. And some of our team has worked in the used vehicle industry at some of the large online players. And one of the things that we know about that industry is a lot of times these used car marketplaces, they're hedging on cars because they know every 10 cars, 20 cars, whatever it's going to be, they're going to buy a lemon. And so they're actually underpaying everyone because they know every once in a while we're going to buy this bad car. And we're pretty set on the idea, and we've had a lot of productive conversations about this already, that if people can show up with their vehicle data that says, hey, this car is in great shape, and don't have a lot of red line events, and the oil was always changed on time, and all of these things have happened that are really positive indicators for the car, you're going to be able to avoid that haircut that everyone gets, and just be able to prove that your car's worth more than the baseline market says it is.
That's so important that you say that way. And I think that's what our listeners are really interested in, right? It's like, what is the practicality of this data? We talk so much about Web3, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and a lot of it seems like metaphysical or foreign or this just doesn't apply to my real life. But it seems to me that the conversation we're having about DIMO is like just very explicitly applicable to my everyday driving.
And that's very much the approach that we've wanted to take and that we've been very focused on. I mean, I could sit here and tell you about the way we're using the blockchain as the open source and then its distributed ledger upon which we're building some of the core tech that actually makes this whole system work. But it's sort of like talking to somebody about how does Netflix stream movies to your TV. You don't really care how the tech is working. You care that the movies show up and there's good content.
I just don't want buffering. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're really focused on trying to, I think most people intuitively get it. That like this car is a very sophisticated machine. And if you haven't been thinking about your car as an IoT device yet, that's understandable. But it is, and it's the most expensive IoT device that you own by many orders of magnitude compared to maybe the Alexa or the smartwatch or the smart light bulb that you have. And it produces a ton of data. It impacts your day almost every single day. And there's so much that you can do in terms of helping people have a better experience around that you sort of don't need to talk about the tech as much as you do about the practical ways that it helps people.
I think that's so important. All right. Well, you stick around with us from the break. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about DIMO and how your car data can be used for your benefit. In just a minute on Beyond the Blockchain.
Welcome back to Beyond the Blockchain with Scott Tyndall.
Hey, folks. Welcome back to Beyond the Blockchain. I'm your host, Scott Tyndall. We're here live on 106.5 FM Talk. I think somebody can fact check us, but we may be the only live show in America talking about blockchain technology, cryptocurrency, Web3, and the future of what technology is going to look for you. Alex, are you still with us, buddy?
I sure am.
Alex from DIMO, man. We're having a really good conversation trying to understand what car data is going to look for us going forward. We're coming into the bottom of the hour, so people may be just now listening in. Can you give us a really quick update and recap on like what DIMO is trying to do for car data in the Web3 space?
Absolutely. So DIMO makes it really easy to collect your car's data. That data is actually not thinking about car data. It's growing, and car produces tons of data every day. Tell you about the health of the car, things like when to get it maintained, when to get the registration renewed. And on the other side of that, there's all these applications and services, car dealers, insurance companies that want to take that data and save you time and money because they can make better decisions with that information.
That's a really good point about, insurance as well. 'Cause we've talked about it in the past, but so basically, if I'm understanding things correctly, like I get DIMO involved in my car, and then now all of a sudden I have this giant data that we can use to understand really kind of like the health of the car, but also my driving habits and my insurance patterns and those things. But really, it seems to me that if I use DIMO correctly, when I go out into the secondary market, it feels like my car should be worth more than people who are not using DIMO. Is that what you're seeing out there?
That's what we're seeing, and that's what we're proving out in just the first year that we've been running DIMO. And I'll give you a little statistic that I think helps this make even more sense. So Carfax, I've heard that they see the average car, and there's quite a brand around the idea if you have the Carfax, then you have a good insight about the health of the car. They see the average car 7 times. And you may get 7 service records about what's happened with the car in its entire life cycle. Whereas with DIMO, you're collecting hundreds of data points about a car every single day, continuously. So forget 7 data points on the life cycle. You're collecting maybe hundreds of thousands of miles worth of data and gigabytes and gigabytes, terabytes of data that can prove the health of the vehicle.
And then DIMO is then going to take that data and provide me with a report that gives me the health of the vehicle?
So we have some baseline reporting in the app, and we're adding some of that today. But we're also building this platform. So one of the things that we think is going to be very unique and interesting as the DIMO project develops is that you might have different services that come onto DIMO and offer different reports. So we'll give you some baseline information. It's time to change your oil. We're noticing the tire pressure's off or what have you. but you could actually send that data off to another provider. And we have one provider today called Carousel. They do a vehicle genius report. So you can actually share the data with them, pay a little bit extra, but then you're benefiting from some true vehicle or even more vehicle expertise, some extra analysis. And there could be a world where there might be 5 or 10 providers that are showing up to say, hey, give us your data. We're going to give you the best analysis possible. And we think this is really important because right now, when you buy a new car, you're getting a vehicle app, most likely the Toyota app or the Ford Pass app, but you're locked into only what Ford or Toyota will give you. We think consumers should have choice. So with DIMO, you collect your own data, and then you can choose who's analyzing your data and giving you the best information in return.
That seems very important to me. So I'm now no longer locked into provider data from the manufacturer. We collect our own data. And I think this is a lot of what we talk about in Web3, right? It's like collect your own data, own your data, be able to sell your data or monetize your data. Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, their vehicle is one of their primary assets. I mean, it's one of the primary places that they've stored their money, right?
It is. And Scott, you've probably heard the car market's been a little all over the place. It was up, and now it's coming back down.
Yeah, it's been pretty much a roller coaster. And what we've seen is when the market was really lean, the sellers, the providers kind of had all the leverage. But what I love about DIMO is, at least what I'm hearing is, now the leverage belongs to the consumers. Is that right?
We're really trying. And in fact, we're working on a feature. It should be out in the next couple of weeks that is going to pull in valuation information about your car from different sources. And we think that one of the biggest problems consumers face about transacting on their vehicle commerce, is they just lack the information that the dealers have and the used car marketplaces have. And so we're going to pull now, not just give people the information that's coming from the car's computers, but also pull in data from other sources like different car marketplaces and car websites, so that you have in your pocket more information, the same information that the dealer has when you go in to chat with them.
I think that's what people want. I think one of the biggest hesitations people have generally when they go into buying a car is they feel undereducated, or they feel like somebody's going to take advantage of them, or they feel like there's a scam, or there's no transparency. And I think that gives people a tremendous amount of reservation going in these conversations. And if I feel like DIMO is providing this opportunity that you can walk in with your vehicle, with your DIMO description or history or whatever the nomenclature is going to be, that we use, and say like, no, here's the value of my vehicle. And I can back up the value of my vehicle with this blockchain-based Web3 technology that says, here's why my vehicle is worth what I tell you it's worth. Am I on the right track there?
You're absolutely right. There's this data verification layer so that we can prove that this data came from this car. You can download the DIMO app and tell me you've got a Corvette, but when you connect to that car to DIMO, we're going to know what kind of car it really is. So there's, verifying it, because on the other side, the dealer's got to trust it, or whoever you're sharing the data with has to trust it. And then as a user, because you have this trusted platform, you have now more information and you're better equipped to navigate the ins and outs of this industry because you have this asset that you've been building up. And it's totally passive. You can connect to DIMO once and the data is going to be improving constantly. It's not the type of thing that you need to maintain and constantly open up the app and work on.
So basically, I get my vehicle affiliated with DIMO, and now all of a sudden, my data is compiled, transparent, and the value of my vehicle should theoretically be reflected by the value of the data connected to it, right?
Yeah, and I'll just say one thing about transparency. We do take customer privacy very seriously. So you're the only one that can access your vehicle data unless you opt in to sharing it with a third party and saying, all right, it's time for me to sell this car or get new insurance or give it to a service agent for some maintenance. I'm going to permission them to read some of this data.
The more I think about this, the more I think about some of my friends that are in the insurance industry. Bradley Flowers, I'm going to call you out about this. Alex, we got to get you with Bradley Flowers. He's one of the most foremost people in the insurance industry. He's got the largest insurance podcast in North America. But this needs to be a thing that is a part of the process, because I should get a reduction in my insurance based on the health of my vehicle and the health of my driving record. And if you have my data, then absolutely, when I choose to share it with my insurance provider, we should all see benefits together. Isn't that kind of the principle here behind DIMO?
And because absolutely, that's the principle behind it. And there's one other kind of another layer to that, which is, you can sign up with some of these insurance programs today. So there's the Progressive Snapshot and Metromile. Most of the insurance providers have some kind of telematics program, but I mentioned earlier in the show, they're mostly out of date. They're not using a lot of data. They're certainly not equipped to use all of the data that could be maximized from modern vehicles. But the other thing is, you can't take your data with you. So if you've been giving your data over to Geico and you think it's pretty good driving history, but you just want to see what Progressive's going to think, you can't say, I'm going to take my data over to Progressive and give it to them. It's only with Geico. And that's what we're trying to fix here, where you're in control of the data. And if you do want to switch, you do want to get a quote from somebody else, you can take your data to all those other providers.
That's exactly what our listeners want to hear. They want to hear your control. You're in control of your data. You can take this to other providers. Alex, stick around with us when we come back from the break, and we'll finish it up if you got a little time for us.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
When we come back, we're going to talk more about taking control of your car data with DIMO.
Welcome back to Beyond the Blockchain with Scott Tyndall.
Hey folks, welcome back to Beyond the Blockchain. I'm your host, Scott Tyndall. We're here live on FM Talk 106.5. It's debatable, we may be the only live show in the world dedicated to blockchain technology, Web3, and the bad word cryptocurrency. But that's okay. We're fine with it. Alex, are you still with us, buddy?
I am.
Alex, how do you feel being on the show? It's maybe one of the worst days in the history of cryptocurrency, and yet we're talking about building new things. That's kind of what the show's all about.
Yeah, and I've been in the industry now about 6 years, and I can't remember any times that equate to a day like this. And, I feel terrible for a lot of the people that have gotten hurt over the course of the unfolding in the last few days. But there's a lot, of course, that is being built here. And I think that these sorts of events force the industry towards a more maturity. And as we build products like DIMO and like many of the others that you've covered, Helium and HiveMapper and others, we're going to show people that there's really utility in this technology by bringing them ways to new products and ways to save money, earn money, so on.
I think that's a wonderful point. I mean, one of the things we've tried to do with this show is this show has never been about the price of a coin. I don't think we've ever even talked about the price of a coin. We've never talked about buying, selling, trading, any of those things. The show has always been about the people who are trying to build the future. And on a day like today, when so many people are getting wrecked and just it's tragic how many people are going to get destroyed by this. I don't know any other way other than to try and think about the people that are building the future, and that's what I feel like DIMO's doing. I feel like that's what our other guests on the show have been doing. And so we will acknowledge how brutally tragic today is, but focus on building for the future. So I'm grateful that you're on the show today. And, maybe for posterity, we will look back on the show and say today was a transcendent moment in blockchain, Web3, and all those things. But you know what? We will just focus on the people that are building and doing things that are productive and will change people's lives and will be these things that we are all grateful for, going forward.
Absolutely, Scott. And I'm right there with you.
All right. So we've talked a little about, we've talked a lot about DIMO. We got a little bit of time left. What I'd love for you to do, Alex, now is talk to us about, like, we know DIMO now. We know what you're doing. How do people get involved in the ecosystem, in the network of DIMO and what you're building?
It's a great question. And there's a couple of ways depending on what kind of car you have. Now, one of the things that we're working on releasing soon is actually a guide where you'll be able to look up. You'll go to explorer.dimo.zone and look up the kind of car you have and figure out exactly what to follow. But today, really the easiest way to get involved is you can check out our website, dimo.zone, or you can download the DIMO mobile app. You'll find DIMO Mobile in the Google Play Store, the Google App Store, and add your car. There's some guides in there, how your car might be able to connect. If it's a Tesla, you'll be able to connect it in a minute. If you need hardware from DIMO, you'll be able to come to the DIMO store in the next couple of weeks and buy hardware when we open it again. And from there, the app does all the heavy lifting, teaches you how to connect your car, how to get it paired, how to create your vehicle ID, and really just passively start storing your data.
Now, if I start storing my data today, how long, and this is very theoretical and metaphysical, but like, at what point do we feel like our data will be useful for transaction sales and otherwise?
Well, we've actually, even though we've been about a year, we've been connecting cars, a little bit less. We've actually already helped people buy or sell their car or refinance or end their lease. There's really a spectrum. Some users are able to, or who maybe are on the verge of taking one of those vehicle transactions can actually reach out to our team or to one of our partners like Tenant or Carousel and work with them. So while you might not have a lot of vehicle health data to go and share and say, hey, this car is in great health, a lot of times it's kind of just about showing the action. If you're the type of person who's taking some action to store some data and can get an initial read, it's going to help you. But obviously this asset, the data asset, is going to compound over time. But we've helped people already buy and sell cars, get readouts on what kind of actions they should take on maintenance, on fixing parts of their vehicle. So there's a lot that we can do even with a week or a couple weeks of data.
I think that's going to be very encouraging for a lot of our users because, I know we're in Mobile, Alabama, and people think we just got the internet the other day, which is also true. We just recently got the internet. But well, the truth of the matter is we have a lot of people that own Teslas. We got a lot of people that own vehicles that are smart ready and ready to accept this technology and the data. I think what we need to do is just continue to educate our listeners and the people of the community to know that this exists. And so I'm just very optimistic and bullish on what you're doing. I think the value of having the data of your vehicle existentially attached to your vehicle becomes a tremendous asset. And a lot of what we talk about is like, how do we take our data and turn it into Web3 assets that the people own? And you're doing that for the people.
And I think it's a pretty simple value prop when you think about it. And most people have thought of their car as mechanical, not connected. It's a machine. It sits in the driveway or in the garage. But not the case anymore. These are computers. They're networked. They're producing tons of data. And most of the time, or at least up till now, your only option for where that data went was it goes back to GM, or it goes back to Tesla, or Toyota, or any of the other dozens of automakers. And what we're really trying to show people is that you can collect the data from your own car, and you can put it to work to save yourself time and money, because there's tons of providers for maintenance and insurance and otherwise that actually, if you have that data, they can help reduce your rate or your cost or whatever it is. And it's all a matter of unlocking it from the silos of the big industries that, whether it's tech or automotive, that want to keep that data for themselves.
I think you nailed it. I think that's the best way we could wrap up the show. I think DIMO is the future of the way we look at vehicle technology. Our listeners know that we're always talking about Web3, blockchain technology. We don't talk about price of coins. We don't talk about any of these other things. We only talk about the way that the world is going to be changed, and DIMO is going to change the world. Alex, I'm incredibly grateful that you'd spend time with us tonight. I hope our listeners got a little bit out of it. I know I got a tremendous amount of knowledge out of it, and I can't wait to get all of my vehicle data on DIMO. Alex, thanks for being a part of it, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a great night.
You as well.